I think Essendon, let's move into the Bombers.
Yes.
We need to look at the long game for them at the moment, and it looks
What's the long game look like? Because at the moment, what's in front of us doesn't look very pretty.
Well, that's right. I mean, where's the next win coming from? So if you look at Essendon's stats at the moment, it's a horror show. They've lost their last 15 half, 58.4%. I'm going to call it now. At the moment, they're Fitzroy. And that is a terrible thing to say because Fitzroy had no hope at all in their final year, and they died off. So Fitzroy...
He's suggesting Essendon could die off.
No, I'm not saying they're going to die off, but they've had draft help, unlike Fitzroy. The AFL wanted them out. Fitzroy in their final year, 96, 121, they went out at 49%. So Essendon aren't far off that. And there's a stench around being compared to Fitzroy, and they're like Fitzroy.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going the Fitzroy comparison just yet, but I'll tell you what, it looks yuck. Just the way they're playing looks yuck. And we heard Brad Scott in the press conference after it, Steve-O, talking about it's not a system issue, we can't teach fumbles and all that sort of stuff, and it wasn't system and structure, it was just about players not doing the job on game day, which was an interesting way to approach it from the coaching perspective. Two rounds in for them, 2 games in for them through this season. He talked about them being demoralised. Like, how can you be demoralised 2 games in? Like, life's not that bad. It's been a rough start. Now, Hawthorn, they weren't expected to win, so you give them that one. That's okay. You lose that, didn't go well. But then on the weekend, that was a game they needed to stand up, and they were found wanting so quickly in that game. Port Adelaide did pretty much whatever they wanted to do in the way they moved the ball. And Essendon, their intent to try and get it back, which is the great challenge in footy, to get the ball back, it just didn't exist. Port Adelaide had 160 plus marks, 102 more uncontested marks, which I think on record, the other Boffins champion data have said is the biggest discrepancy in the history of their recovering of football. So just not enough effort from the Bombers. So what you would hope as an Essendon supporter, and Brad Scott would have hoped at least the first quarter be competitive, going about level, have a crack, pressure high. Well, Durham starts forward. Why would Durham start forward? So I'm not sure what's going on with Durham. He's gone quiet. He should be their captain. He's the guy that should be their captain. He's the heart and soul, spirit. So you're saying he's the competitive animal. Right now, McGrath shouldn't be captain. I actually agree, Half. I know that he's been a handy, tidy player, Andy McGrath. I'm not sure where he's at. He's totally lost. He's a number 1 draft pick, which is not his fault. He's not a number 1 pick in quality whatsoever. I mean, you don't want back pockets as draft picks at number 1. But is he the right leader at the moment? Has he got enough mongrel about him? He's a lovely guy, Andy McGrath. Is he too nice? Well, I don't know much about him off the field, in fairness, so it's hard to describe him from a personality perspective. But if you were, at the end of last season, when Zach Merritt stood down and you went through the list of Essendon players and you wanted someone to build this next generation of almost old-school Essendon but bring it into the modern era, Sam Durham was the one who was standing right in front of you, staring you right in the eye saying, pick me, in my view. I said at the time as well, they went with Andy McGrath. Now, McGrath's been a great servant for that footy club. He's been a fantastic player. You can judge him as you like as a number 1 pick. That's not his doing. And being captain is not his problem either. I mean, not his. Well, it is. Not his choice. He put his hand up for it. But they all would have, because he needed to know. Well, some people have come out and said, I don't want to be captain. So he wanted it. He needed to be one of those guys. He's been around a long time now. He's been a real solid contributor for that footy club for a long time. So he needed to put his hand up. But if it had been me, I would have made the call myself and said, Sam Durham, you're our captain. You're exactly what we need. Regardless of that, he starts out of the centre square in that first centre bounce, I think it was on the weekend. You think, well, why? Why would you do that? Why would you get one of your real grunt players who can make a difference at a contest any given time he's around it and not have him front and centre in all those key contests early in the game? As you said, get off to a good start, be strong and physical early, put Port Adelaide on their backsides a bit and see what happens on the back of that. Yeah, so Durham's quiet. What about 2 metre Peter? Peter Wright. Peter Wright's Peter wrong at the moment. Can't get it right at all, Big Peter, which is a bit of a shame. He had 11 disposals, I think, on the weekend. Didn't hit the scoreboard at all. And it's left to Nate Caddy to be that big presence in the forward half. And Kako had a few shots too. Kako at least had some shots. I'm still not convinced about Kako, to be honest. No, he'll be right. Jury's out there, but he had some shots on goal that he should have kicked. Scott mentioned that in the presser, but I think he showed at least some energy. And you saw in the last quarter, I know it was sort of dead rubbery stuff, but Caddy did lift, didn't he? So he gave them some hope if you're an Essendon supporter. Yeah, too little too late. I think we've seen it both times against Essendon. Hawthorn in the last quarter took the foot off the pedal. I think Port Adelaide might have done the same thing on the weekend as well. So that was a really disappointing game. But it's more the way they're playing. Or they cannot defend. Talked about defending transition, and Brad Scott's had this hanging over his head for the last couple of seasons. He had 4 pre-seasons now to sort this out for Essendon and doesn't seem to have made any headway in that. So that's a problem for the Bombers. And he called players out for being selfish after the game in the press conference. So what do we do on the back of that? What does he do on the back of that? Well, does he drop somebody? Well, he's going to have to. Well, they tend to just pick the same players every week. A lot of the players we've named, Peter Wright, 2 metre Peter, they all get picked every week.
even when they're down on form. I mean, Parrish, where's he at?
No, he's not going well at the moment.
No.
But none of them are. So who's going to be the one who's the fire starter at Essendon? That's the question. Who's the fire starter? And will there be some selection decisions made and get rid of those guys that Brad Scott clearly called out without naming them in the press conference after the game?
But what about Brad Scott, though? I mean, Essendon, traditionally, they haven't suffered fools at the coaching table. I mean, Matty Knight's copped it. Brad Scott's record's not looking great at the moment. Constant whispers about Dean Solomon, who is a revered figure at Essendon. Just hovering now in the background.
Well, he's an assistant coach.
He is. And they love him.
Yeah,
he's just one of those gold ticket guys at the Bombers.
I'll tell you what, the next 2 weeks are pretty big for the Bombers. North Melbourne this week is a huge game for them, and then Carlton the week after.
They won't beat North Melbourne the way it's looking. I mean, we'll get on to North later, who've got their own issues. I don't think they can.
We'll talk about them a little bit later on. But they had injury issues last year, the Bombers, and that was their excuse. But not so. That can't be the reason this year, and they've got significant problems they've got to sort out really quickly just to compete. You don't have to win every week, but you've got to compete better than they have in the first 2 games.